take the مختصر منهاج القاصدين first, and then we'll have a mas'ala or two in the book of Salah. Inshallah. So in مختصر منهاج القاصدين we were talking about sabr, patience. And the many ayat of the Quran that talks about sabr. And the last thing that we were talking about is he said the statement about the real sabr, or the best sabr, or the best patience, is not when the person is facing calamities or difficulties where people think of sabr like this. But the best sabr is when the person has afiyah, when he has good things, when he has health and wealth and so on. Most people, they have no sabr when they're in that state, because it's easy for them to follow their desires, because they have it and they're forgetful, so they won't have too much sabr to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to be away from sins. But when a person is in calamity, right, he wants to have sabr so that it relieves him from the pain that he has. So he would try to seek something. He would even take the means for someone to remind him of matters of sabr and patience, so that he would not feel the misery of the pain and so on. That's why he says, فَالرَّجُلُ كُلُّ الرَّجُلْ مَنْ يَصْبِرْ عَلَى الْعَافِيَةِ. The real man is the one that is patient when he's in the state of afiyah, the state of strength and goodness and so on. وَهَذَا الصَّبْرُ مُتَّصِلٌ بِالشُّكْرِ. The sabr is connected to shukr, or being grateful to Allah. Nobody will be able to do it unless he's grateful to Allah. So a person needs patience to be grateful, and he needs gratefulness to be patient, and so on. يقول إنما كان الصبر على السراء شديدا لأنه مقرون بالقدرة والجائع عند غيبة الطعام أقدر على الصبر منه عند حضور الطعام اللذيذ. The sabr, why on matters of ease, is very difficult, because the sabr is always with the ability of the person. If you have the ability to do things, sabr is never separated of this. Meaning, the example, if a person is hungry and there's no food in front of him, he has more sabr than someone that is hungry but he has the food in front of him. Right? The same thing, if a person is away from the sinful acts, right, women and things like this, he has more sabr than someone that is faced with a fitna. That's why the sabr of Yusuf alayhi salam, facing the wife of Al-Aziz, right, was of a higher level of sabr than when he was thrown in the well, and he was sabr. He has sabr there when he was thrown into the well. But the one that is more stronger, more difficult, is when he faced the wife of Al-Aziz. Why? Because he had the ability to follow his desires, and he controlled himself for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And that's why a person knowing this, he should not لا يلام الإنسان على العافية. If a person has afiyah, he should not be blamed. It's a good thing to have good and to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for afiyah, but a person has to then prepare himself to have patience in afiyah. Otherwise, if he refuses to have patience, and he does not worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the right way and so on, maybe then if Allah wants good for him, he would take the afiyah away. He would take the strength away. Why? Because he's not being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so then he would put him through difficulties out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that would get him to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't, everybody that, or anybody that faces difficulties, that means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took away from afiyah from him because it's not good for him. It doesn't work this way. It's all, a person should always witness the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decree for a person, that's what is best for him, because it's meant for him to do whatever acts of ibadah. Some people are chosen to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more with sabr, some people are chosen to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more with shukr, or both, and this is all by the wisdom of Allah. So this is the first type, which is what fits the human being. They always are one of two cases. Either, which is the first one that we just talked about, is that his whatever he has fits his desire, health, wealth, all kinds of things. So the sabr in that state, as we heard, is needed, and it's even more difficult than other states. The second type, al-mukhalifu lil-hawa. when a person is in a state where he has to go against his desire and he needs the sabr there, which is three categories: at-ta'at, and the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the sabr al-ma'asi, sabr al-bala. To be patient, to do the acts of obedience to Allah, to be patient to be away from sins, and to be patient at times of calamities. At-ta'at, to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that needs a lot of patience to be able to fulfill the acts of worship. Why the human being, why the believers, they need sabr? It's half of the iman. لأن النفس بطبعها تنفر عن العبودية. The nafs, our own self being, in its norm, it runs away from being obedient, or being submissive, or being ubudiyya, right? Because we have desires. So a person wants to follow his desires. He doesn't want to follow orders and things like this. ثم من العبادات ما يكره بسبب الكسل. Some of the ibadat might be difficult for the person because of laziness, like as-salah, being lazy and the time for the salah. And some of it is because of al-bukhl. The person is greedy, so he doesn't want to give zakat. Or both, like al-hajj wal-jihad, right? That needs, many people, they don't like to go for hajj because it's too difficult. It's annoying to some people. Like it's difficult, right? And it's very too much crowdedness and things of that nature, or money-wise, right? And see, always al-hajj and jihad that are mentioned together. Why? Because this jihad al-nisa, al-hajj is jihad of women. That's why, as one of the ulama, they said, if a person is deprived from jihad, if there was a proper jihad established, you find Muslims, this is part of the deen of Islam, where they make that with their own selves and with their own wealth, right? If it's done in the proper way. Well, if a person is deprived of that and he has the means to go for hajj, this is one of the forms of jihad. So a person should not be greedy with his own self. So the person is in need of that sabr in these acts of worship, to do the acts of worship in three states. First, before the ibadah, and one while doing the ibadah, and one after the ibadah. You need sabr at all of these times. The one before the ibadah, قبل العبادة وتصحيح النية, to have the proper intention, and to have ikhlas, والصبر عن شوائب الرياء, and to have patience not to show off, right? Because we in ourselves, we have this tendency that we like to show off to human beings and so on. So to be away from this, if a person says that he has this in his own norm, no, he has to have patience. Or maybe that he worked on himself that it becomes his norm, but he has to stay away from this. And sometimes showing off, it doesn't have to be that a person show off with materialistic things. Sometimes it's showing off by not having materialistic things. That people would think that he's very humble. Right? That's a show off also. Or it's all depends on the heart. So it's not something that's shown physically. That person shows off and that person doesn't show off. No, a person might show off that he's humble and someone show off that he's something else, and it all depends on what's in the heart of the person. So to have the proper intention and to have ikhlas, and for the deeds to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and of course to have the knowledge of what a person is going to do of an act of worship, to have sabr to learn, and to have the sabr to accept the advice of others, which is another thing. Sometimes you would find people maybe don't come to the masjid because they have a problem with someone. What is the relationship? What is that to do with this? There's a problem in intentions then. The person would not come to the salah because he has an issue, a dispute with one of the people in the masjid. If you're praying in another masjid, yeah, sure, but even that, he should not have disputes if it's matters of dunya or so. I'm not talking about a masajid that is deviating away, or maybe a person, he would avoid one place because it affects him negatively in his deen. It's a different situation. But a person would choose to pray home and not to come to the masjid because, they have a dispute. Or, like I remember, someone, for example, he was supposed to go and lead people in Salatul Taraweeh. This is an incident I saw with my own eyes. Right? So he's supposed to go pray, and it's not here. So far, a long time ago, in different place. So you're supposed to go to pray Salat, to lead people in Salat al-Tarawih. So the people in the last minute, they told them, sorry, we have someone else. And he is 2 blocks away from the masjid. Prayed at home, did not go to the masjid, and prayed there, and he got some people to pray with him Jama'ah.
Wow.
Right? Allah knows best what's in the hearts, of course. Well, this is the proper way of a Muslim do things? Is it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or what is it? Right? So, and this is a subject that, we have to make sure that we fix, which is ترك العمل من أجل الناس والعمل من أجل الناس. To do something for people and to leave an act of worship also for people. Or a person is being kind to someone, and then when that person is not good to him, then he stop being kind or stop charity or whatever there is. So these things need sabr, needs a lot of patience for the person to be sincere, والتجرد للحق, for a person to be purely doing things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and there's no contamination with how people react or the outcome of his actions and so on. So this is before the ibadah. And a state when the person, while he's doing the ibadah, ألا يغفل عن الله تعالى في أثناء العبادة. He's not forgetful while he's doing the act of worship. ولا يتكاسل عن تحقيق الآداب والسنن, and not to be lazy while he's doing the ibadah, from doing it in the best manners and do it with the sunnah and the things from the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. فيلازم الصبر عن دواعي الفتور إلى الفراغ من العمل. So he would stay on patience so that he does not fall back or be bored or quit the act till he finishes the good deed or the act of ibadah. Like for Hajj, for example, since Hajj is coming up, Hajj, it takes few days. So a person got tired from the first day, and of course he won't quit, but he has to continue to be patient. And as Shaykh al-Baz rahimahullah, that we're reading his book, he used to say that to the people in Hajj, because people in Hajj in the beginning, once they start, or in Arafah, or after Arafah, or the days of Mina, and it's very hot and they're disturbed and so on. So he would comfort them, and he says, إِنَّمَا هِيَ أَيَّامٌ قَلِيلٌ. He would say to them, it's only few days. It's only few days. So person needs to be patient. The same thing, this life is nothing but few days. So this is while the ibadah is being done. The person in the salah, he starts saying Allahu Akbar, the shaitan does not leave. Right? You have to finish quickly because this. You have to quit this. You finish the salah, you have to run because of this. So to be patient with one's ibadah, with one's dhikr, with one's wird of the Quran. Start reading the Quran. All of the different things in your life comes in, all at once. The phone calls and the thoughts, right? And I forgot about this and I forgot about all the different things would come once you start doing a good deed. And as we said before, this is one of the ways of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the person to be tested. That is he really sincerely doing things for the sake of Allah? Then whenever you are busy with a good thing, then the shaitan will come to take you away. And if a person struggles with his own self, then it changes and it becomes a beautiful thing. Right? And one of these fitan that we have nowadays is our phones. Right? So, if a person wants to do something, like reading Quran, put it away, turn it off and lock the door on it, and things like this, so that the person doesn't think of things. Otherwise, and this is another subject. I was talking to someone today, and the issue of when someone calls you on the phone, and actually there's a book, Adab al-Hatif by Shaykh rahimahullah. He has a small book called Adab al-Hatif, the manners of phones. A very nice challenge. You can read this book. Because one of the manners is you're not obliged, ليس بواجب حتم عليك أن ترد على الهاتف. It is not an obligation on you to answer the phone. Right? If someone is calling you, is it an obligation that you have to answer? No, because he doesn't know what you're doing. Right? If you're doing something, then actually it's bad manners to leave that thing and answer the phone. And yes, but at the same time, a person, of course, has to be considerate to others and so on. But the point here is, when people would get angry because someone didn't answer the phone, or when people make an appointment only from one side and the person that would get angry with him because he did not fulfill the appointment. He did not agree to it to start with. And one of the mashayikh, he used to have this in his answering machine on that whenever someone would call him, he would say, please you leave whatever, and please do not make an appointment from one side only. Because someone will call him and say, inshallah, I'll see you today after Salatul Asr. Right? What if he has something after Salatul Asr? Right? So don't make appointments from one side only. So things like this, it's something for people to be considerate about these matters, so that so basically the matter needs sabr for the person to do the acts of worship, and not to be constantly busy. The hearts are busy and the thoughts are busy. Everything is busy because we get ourselves immersed into certain things that there's no time for the ibadah anymore. And the last state is بعد الفراغ من العمل, after finishing the act of good deed or the act of worship, وهو الصبر عن إفشائه, to be patient, not to الإفشاء is to spread the word of how great the deed that you did, so that a person doesn't ruin his deed by showing off. والتظاهر به لأجل الرياء والسمعة, or to boost with these actions to show off and so on. وعن كل ما يبطل عمله, and to have patience not to ruin one's actions, because there are certain things that ruins the actions and ruins one's reward, like al-mann ba'd as-sabr, to give charity, great deed, mashallah, with sincere intentions for the sake of Allah, and then after that, after 50 years, and a person thinks that this charity is written and it's done, but after 50 years he makes this mann. Al-mann is to remind someone of your favor to him that ruins the deed. So you see that person and he did something to you bad, or he called you something, or he did not appreciate what you did or what you do, a favor to him, and then you would say, you're doing this after I did all of this to you? That means it wasn't for the sake of Allah. This is by itself, even though you're right? You might even say this as a way to remind him so that he's grateful, so that he's a good person because he's doing something bad. But that called al-mann. Al-mann is to remind someone of your favors. The favors are to be done for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not to remind people, otherwise then it ruins the reward of something like the sadaqah, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mann wal adha. Al-adha is to harm someone after doing something good for them. And this is one of the things that ruins one's deeds. So that needs patience. So the deeds that a person did a long time ago, he needs to be patient to keep it and not to ruin it. And that needs definitely sabr, so that the person doesn't disclose his affairs and talk about how great he is and things of that nature. And Salaf Salih, they used to hide their good deeds like a person would hide his sins. And this is with regards, of course, the obligatory deeds, you cannot hide that. You have to come to the masjid, you have to pray with the people, and that's still with sabr, with patience, to be sincere. But the things that needs to be hidden, like the optional acts of worship, things like that, they would hide it so much, but they won't leave it for the people, right? Because if someone, you're reading Quran and someone, enters, for example, it doesn't have to be like you would hide it and things like this. A person should be sincere. But they would not make an announcement of what they do, and this subject of the selfies in front of the Kaaba, and in sujood, and in salah, and even people want to go do good deeds, like charity, like da'wah even, right? Again, we're not talking about intentions. Intentions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that sometimes it's way to motivate people, which is a good thing, to get people to be encouraged to do good things. But it becomes fitna. Any good deed, the person should protect his heart first and not to show it to everybody unless there's a benefit. So if there's a benefit, then the person has to work on himself to have so much patience to control his heart that the matter is done sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So basically, we're in times of fitna. So there's so many means to ruin one's deeds. Very easy to ruin the deeds. So that means the sabr is needed more. And not necessarily to stay away from things, but to have sabr. To have patience with oneself, with one's intentions, to be patient with the actions, to make sure that we don't ruin our deeds. When a person will do something that is against